church. I'd like to see if you could get a photograph of 1944.
Probably if you look around in some of these bookshops and things, you can find old prints of Chartres.
Are you want to get in the picture, Dad?
Yeah.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah. So.
So what is this place? Where are we standing?
Well, this is the airport where C-47s were parked. And we were staying over there in that tree, way over there. And this was a paved runway, and it was an ex-German airfield.
This is Drew.
And this is Drew. And about 2 kilometers, what, north?
I guess north of Drew.
North of Drew.
So it looks like that's now a field over there. So it's just this one strip of grass.
And several companies were over in those other trees, and we were over. And I guess that highway wasn't there.
I wonder if they turned. Do you think they turned the highway into or turned the airstrip into a highway? Look at this guy.
There were two airstrips. One went down this way, one went over that way. Down kind of like a V, like that. But that's it. Have you got sound on that?
Yep.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I'm picking all this up.
Well, and did you catch all that?
Yep.
Well, it's a beautiful day in Drew, but there's not much left here. It's all gone. We might find the hangar, and the back of this is still there. Back of this one. But that's on the way out. It certainly has changed. Certainly has. Well, what else you wanted to say? That's about it, huh?
Yeah, that's it for Drew. So how long were you here?
Well, I was here off and on. I didn't stay here. I was just here on temporary duty when there was nothing to do in Chartres. But I didn't stay here.
And then how long was it before you moved on?
But, you know, Kilpala, my friend, he stayed here all the time. He just hated it here.
This is where Cap stayed?
Yeah, he stayed over here forever. He got put on details, and he went out, and we had to build hard stands for these airplanes, and he didn't like that at all. It's a lot of hard work, you know, digging and trenching. And
so how long were you guys here all together in this area?
oh,
6 months?
the whole company? We were here from probably October through January, and then we moved to several other fields near Reims. This is when the 82nd and the 101st got back from Bastogne, and they were all shot up, and they were using Reims as a rehab center for them. So we had to go over there and put certain strips in working order, and we were over there until practically the end of the war, over in Reims. So that was the story. But there was, at this field, we packed up 2 gliders full of gasoline for the three gliders, and they had sealed tanks in the gliders, rubber tanks, and they took off for Bastogne December. It was about Christmas. No, Christmas Eve they took off, and they couldn't land in Bastogne because it was too foggy. It was closed in. So they came back. The next morning they took off again. They came back again, and the next morning they took off and they landed there, and they were able to get the gasoline that they needed. So several other things there. They resupplied Bastogne here from this field too. This is one of the fields. And I forget the name of the C-47 transport command that was here. I don't know the number. It was a 442nd or something like that. I think that was it, the 442nd. And we traveled around with them. They'd wherever they wanted us to go. Oh yeah, another thing. Around November, I came back here to this field from Reims, and they had found a Focke-Wulf 190, and they brought it in here. And they set it down on the start of the runway, and it didn't have any brakes. It went all the way to the end.
Oh, it still ran?
Yeah, it just rolled right across this
You mean they had
field.
someone flying it?
Yeah, they put a pilot. These C-47 people were just the frustrated pursuit pilots, you know. So they got a hold of one, and one guy came barreling down over the field. When he brought it back from the field, it wasn't in, where was it? It was in Germany, just a little over the border. They found the plane, and they sent a mechanic down there, fix it, and he said, well, there's no fluid in the brakes, and the brakes leak, so it won't hold any fluid. So one guy said, I'll take it in. So he came over the field, and he did a roll with the thing. He came back like he was, you know, he went around the field several times, came back, came in for a landing, and he went all the way to the end. And my God, we were holding our, we thought he's going to roll off into the mud and ruin the plane. See, and I was standing here with a lot of pilots. And the pilot, I don't get my chance to fly it. You know, they were crazy. So he made it. So then they didn't fly it anymore that day. They fixed the brakes, and they were flying it all over this field, taking turns, and we were watching. Yeah, they were crazy. But anyway, but they launched several other invasions from here. When they crossed the Rhine at Remagen, this was a field. The 82nd came in here from someplace, and they camped not far from us, and they put on got all their equipment. They marched over here, got in the planes, and then I went to Chartres, and I never saw them go off. You know, I didn't see them go into the planes, but I knew that's what they were doing from Chartres. So they took off. The whole squadron, I don't know how many, 24 C-47s were here about then. And this was one of the fields they went over, and they dropped, they were the 11th Airborne. They had the claw on their insignia. And they dropped. And one of the men here at the field, I don't know what the officer's name was, loaned a glider pilot a jacket. He didn't have a proper jacket. So he loaned him his jacket, his combat jacket. And he landed his glider over in Remagen, over the Rhine. And he came back, and I saw him in Chartres. He reported in at Chartres. He had bullet holes all over his jacket, and the guy was over in Chartres, the officer that loaned it to him. One of our officers. And he took off the jacket. Here's your jacket back. And the guy looked at it, it was just full of holes. He says, how in that blazes did you get away with this? You know, how'd you get out with it? It wasn't even hurt. And the bullets pierced his jacket and did a bunch of holes in it. And he says, I liked your jacket very well. He says, it protected me all the way through. He says, when I landed in the glider, he said there was so much small arms fire that we didn't know what was doing it. But he said we crawled in the nearest ditch, and they missed. And he says, I'm sure lucky that I got away with what I did, but here's your jacket anyway. And the guy said, yeah. But that's a small story. Oh yeah, and I'll tell you about another thing. The Germans had a ammunition dump over here when we drove into the highway, and I was here, I got back, let's see, this was in early April or late March, and the thing blew up. And we were over there, and I can't believe it was that far away, but maybe the runway was over there, you know? I don't know.
So this is March 45?
No, this was March or early April. And,
45?
Yeah, and the war in Europe was over. It was over in April, and there was all kinds of rumors that it was over. And just then, that evening, the darn thing started to blow up. And I took a shower. We had a shower over here in one of the camps, and you could hear the shrapnel hitting the roof. It was tossing this shrapnel. These were big bombs. They were 200-pound bombs going off, and they were on the surface. You know, they weren't. They were up on cribbing. The Germans had put them up in cribbing, so naturally they went a long way. So I don't, as I say, I don't know where that camp was. I can't spot it. I can't believe that. Now, how far would you say those trees are? That's a good mile, right?
Maybe a mile. Yeah, and then there seems to be a village beyond that. See that tower?
Yeah, we weren't to that village. You know, they could have cleared some in there. It could have been it right over there. See that row of trees?
Mm-hmm.
That could be it, where we had our camp. But there was more trees around here then. There was quite a few more. You know, unless I'm disoriented here. No, because see those cranes? That's where the sand pile is, or the gravel pile. I know where that was. And that was at the end of the runway. That runway was paved down through here, someplace. I wonder if it is paved way over there. You think it is?
I don't know.
Maybe the farmers took the land. I don't know.
Farmers might have taken it.
Yeah,
It
I
doesn't
don't know
look like there's
how
anything.
would they rip that pavement?
Yeah, you at least have a pavement like this.
Well, that's the story anyway. You want to ask somebody? See what they say? I know some paving is here. What's this? Look at this. This is paved. It looks like the paving. You know, the old-time French paved. I wonder who'd know. Could you, if we ask somebody, you think they'd know?
I don't know. We can ask.
Yeah, let's go over there and ask them. We were over in our area. One of the days I'd got back from Sharks, and I was killing time, so I went over to the medic shack. And it was a overcast, foggy night in March. And we had just, about a week before, let some soldiers go on leave to London. They flew to London from here. And they were in the air coming back. And we heard a plane go over, and it zoomed the runway, and it zoomed our area, and it was getting lower, and we thought that our boys were on that plane. It was coming back. We got in touch with the tower over here. They had a makeshift tower, the Air Force did, and they said, yes, it's a C-47 coming in. And he cut his engines and tried to come in on the runway, and he missed, and he landed in a bunch of trees. I don't know where those trees were. Over there. He landed over there. And we heard him crack up.
Oh, no.
And then we looked out the tent, and we saw a flash of flame, and we knew you could barely see it. It was just a obscure red ball. So we got in the medic truck, and we went over there across this field to see if there were any survivors, because we thought it was our men.
Yeah.
And here we had 7 men on leave, and we thought, oh my God, we're going to find them dead. We found 2 bodies. The pilot, no, 3. The pilot, the co-pilot, and the radio operator. That's all. And when we went over there, it was so bumpy to get over to the side of the wreck. and it was a complete disaster, and the wreckage was burning and everything else. But it was kind of a sad event. But the pilot had enough confidence to try and come in. He couldn't see anything, and every pilot over here was talking about how that was a stupid thing to do, try to land when you couldn't even see where you were landing. But anyway, that was another story.
So after we turned off the video, he said that this area of trees is probably where they were camped, and not the ones that we've got on the tape previous. So this was the area. Right along here. They found somebody to ask about the airport. Dan's explaining that he was here during the war, stationed over by those trees.
It's a house just in front of the goat inside. And it was
Guardhouse, like a guardhouse? Yeah. Okay, yeah, right. But it was a German dump for ammunition. And we left it alone. We left the bombs there. Then I came back, I was in Reims. And where else was there? It was all over that area. And I came back here just in time for it blew up. It caught on somebody one evening, kind of late, maybe 10 o'clock. It started blowing up, and I slept right through the damn thing when it blew up. And the next morning, they were still blowing. Those bombs, and there were 200-pound bombs over there, this big. You know, and one of the bombs blew so high, it blew up, and it blew shrapnel, just a few pieces, way over there, right? And it hit the roof of the shower. I went in to take a shower, and about 3 pieces hit the roof of the shower. It didn't go through, it was spent. You know what I mean? It was gone, but it hit.
It was a Messerschmitt 109 here. And Novotny,
I wouldn't doubt it.
Drove them with a Messerschmitt, a Focke-Wulf 119.
Focke-Wulf 190?
Oh, the Focke-Wulf 190. The troop carrier brought that in sometime in March 1945.
Yes.
And troop carrier, you know, flew 2-engine C-47s, and they were, how do you say frustrated in French? I don't know.
Frustrated?
Well, they wanted to be pursuit pilots. So they got a hold of this Focke-Wulf and flew it over here without any brakes. They landed way at the guy made a perfect touchdown right at the concrete runway. There was a concrete, did he say so?
Yeah.
Concrete run, he made it. At the end of the runway was mud, you know, and we were sweating him out. I was standing with a bunch of pilots, and he had no brakes. And he coasted all the way about 5,000 feet. I swear, that's about a mile, because they were about a mile long, a little over a mile, maybe 6,000 feet. And he went to the end of the runway and just made it. And he went off the runway, and you know, the grass slowed him down. And No, he didn't
No?
turn over.
Uh-huh.
So they fixed the brakes, and they were flying that thing for the next 3 days. All these pilots around here, and then I left. So I don't know what happened to the Focke-Wulf,
I
but
don't
it was
know too.
parked here, huh?
Yeah.
How do you like that? See, and
And it was Normandy, which was the headquarters.
and the
here.
Messerschmitt wasn't flyable, though. I don't think.
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so.
no, you're right. You're correct. I don't think it was. But didn't the Germans use this field to bomb England?
No, it was just, how do you call that, chasse. What about my English?
Well,
Fighters.
it was a
Fighters.
fighter
Just
strip,
fighters.
just to catch bombers.
Bombers, it
Yeah.
was in Saint-André,
Yeah, okay.
and Evreux too.
Yeah, okay.
Saint-André,
All
Evreux.
right.
And les chasseurs, c'était Saint-André, Dreux, c'était aussi Conches, et
Uh-huh.
Beaumont-le-Roger, et
Yeah.
Évreux.
Okay. Hey, take a picture. My name is Sullivan. Dan, so what is your name?
Jean-Paul Kuhn.
Did you get that, John?
Jean-Paul Kuhn.
Polkin?
Jean-Paul Kuhn.
Oh, okay, good. Take a picture.
K-H.
Do you mind if we take a picture?
Oh.
Huh? Can you?
If you want to.
Okay.
You're announcing where we are.
We're at the Château de Blainville, the family home of Emmanuel and Lisa de Cossé-Brissac.
So where are we?
I wouldn't be a bit surprised if I came up this defile right here. Right here.
Get closer to him.
What's over there? That's it. Pretty sure it is. Yep. This is the path. They had a path up here. And they had two paths. This was a kind of a drainage ditch, and they didn't develop it as a path. But right here, you come up here. And where this damn highway was, I don't know.
Was that there at all, do you think?
They had a road up here. This wasn't it. It wasn't this close. It was up there.
So explain where you are.
Well, I'm standing in a defile that we came off of the ships out here,
This is Omaha Beach.
right up to Omaha Beach.
I think you're too far away. For the microphone.
Now,
I'll be
let
the
me
judge
paint
of
the
that.
picture. Right up there someplace, I believe, if I'm in the right spot, there was a P-47 at about a 75-degree angle, buried with his nose in the ground, where I remember the captain, it was W.E. Purdy, P-U-R-D-Y. And I often came up, we stayed up at the top of this bluff one night, because we got there too late in the afternoon. And I just I told my bunkmate, we pitched tents around here, stayed here one night, and wondered if he got out alive. I to this day I don't know, but I got his name. I could check it. But anyway, this is how we came up. Now they had a concrete pier out there about a mile. They had sunken ships all along, and they made an artificial harbor. And they probably, we got up here D plus about 20, but no, it was June 24th, about June 23rd maybe. I gotta check that, but we didn't get up here D-Day. You could hear the cannonading over the ridge up there, you know, of artillery shooting. You could hear, you got up further, you could hear small arms fire, you could hear everything. This was a narrow beach here, it wasn't very deep. And I don't know how it survived, I really don't know. But we came up this defile, stayed here one night, and joined a highway up here that went a little higher up. Maybe that road that we had in the parking lot was it. We walked up and got on that road, and we started down the road towards Easy Knee, you know, marching. And that's where we met Patton on the road, and we'll get up there later. But this is it. 52 years. 52 years ago. Sorry, I'll tell you.
Does the terrain look the same?
The terrain, about the same, but it's all overgrowth. Somebody must have planted a lot of stuff here. I think up there's a bunker. There was a German bunker. And you could see it was obvious, this protuberance out here, that they put a bunker out there with the guns in place. And there was another bunker down there covering the beach. See that? There's another bunker. See it where the monument is? See it? But this is where we came up. I'm pretty sure about that. There are all kinds of trucks and vehicles running along that beach. All kinds.
It was just as bumpy. There was.
Well, it was a little smoother than that. They might have had some growth along the edge, but that was all beach down there. And I don't know. How about the tide? It comes up, doesn't it? Where does it go? Does it go over the grass? Up there? You don't see a thing out there. No ships, no nothing.
There's these concrete. What are those concrete things in the water?
I don't know. They're part of something. I don't know.
Well, should we walk down there?
Well, you can.
Why don't we walk down there?
You can. How do you get down?
Probably straight down this path. And then around. See, it comes around.
The ravine we came up. And the cemetery is off to there, right? If the cemetery is on the left as we come up, that's where we came up. Where are we?
Well, here's the cemetery.
Okay.
Breakwaters there, unless there's another cemetery.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, here are the ships out here, see? That's, where are we? Right here. Where do they say we are? No, this is a different thing. You see, are you French? French. Ask them, where are we here?
Est-ce que vous savez où nous sommes?
Alors, ici,
Alors, le
Day file. We came up, and there was a P-47 cracked up right at top of that bluff, right there. And there was a connection to the road, to the Red Ball Highway, through this D file up there. That's the way we went. That's exactly the way we went. You see this? See this D file? We came up here. There's a path. See, it almost follows this path that is there. See it over there? And that's the way we came up. We camped at the top of that first bluff there, not the second, the first, right down there. The P-47 was right where the tree is. My tent was next to that tree. There and connect to the highway, and that's the way we went.
Do you want to walk up there?
Yeah, let's walk up there, unless you want to walk down there.
Or we can walk down.
Oh, it just went off by itself.
Yeah, if you leave it on standby too long, it shuts off.
Now the only thing is the wind noise going to get into the microphone?
We don't know.
So I'm wondering if we should stand back there a little bit so the wind's not.
Let's go right down to the water.
But it's going to be worse.
So what?
And the wave noise will be worse.
So what?
All right. Well, pick a spot.
I got 3 rocks. Here we walked up off of the pier that was out here, and we walked up the defile and on up the bluff to a road that hooked in past we'll walk past a chalet or a house that hooked into the Red Ball Highway. And that's how we camped right up in that area that I pointed out to you, someplace over there.
And when you got off on, how did you get off how'd you land on the beach?
Well, I landed on the beach through this concrete pier assembly that extended out there about a mile. And we were out in a ship, and a landing craft LCI took us into the pier. We got off the pier and marched down the pier and up this bluff. There was no vegetation up there, hardly any. It was all stripped away. It was sand. It was all sand up there, where the vegetation started probably at the top of that bluff.
And so the Germans were gone by then?
The Germans were out of it, but the bunkers were still in place with the guns and everything else.
How'd you feel when you were getting off the
Well,
boat?
kind of humble, very humble. I'll tell you, those guys down here suffered. They were killed, a lot of them. The whole three companies. I talked to a fellow that was in our outfit later from the 1st Division who landed here. And all of his company was killed immediately. His buddy was killed. He was clinging out here a short ways to one of these steel impediments. And he said he doesn't know why they didn't shoot him. They knew he was there, but they didn't kill him.
And this water is fairly shallow, so people could walk in.
Yeah, they could walk in.
I thought I'd seen films of people walking
They were
far out there, but up to their chest.
100 yards out there they could walk, but up there it got deeper. It was fall off. And there were all kind of wrecked ships out there. All kind of wrecked LCIs. There was, of course, the temporary harbor of wrecked ships. It was a different sight today than it is now. In fact, when they landed on D-Day, the original ships that they anchored out here were destroyed. The waves must have been 4 foot high. They were coming in, the wind was blowing like mad. It destroyed the whole docks, everything. And I think the only survivor was the British down there. But this is it.
And then Omaha Beach goes down how far?
Probably another half a mile.
All the way down as far as the sand, and then those cliffs, is that Utah?
Point de Hoc, I think Point de Hoc is that point out there. See, I'll have to look, but I don't know. That's part of the Potemkin Peninsula. See that thing that goes out?
Yeah.
But this point right out here is, see, you can barely see it. That is where the Ranger Battalion took the guns by scaling the cliff.
Well, then why don't we walk up the beach? Oh, now look, up there is a bunker, isn't it?
Yeah, there's all over here. And some of them were completed and some weren't. And this one is completed, I think, several. And they shot at ships out here before the invasion began. They saw them and they shot at them. So you can see that the bunker is all marked up with shell.
Oh yeah.
From Navy ships.
Oh sure.
And the ship out here was the Utah, and that was I believe the Utah was the boat that was at Pearl Harbor, refitted, and it got into Normandy invasion. And I'll tell you later a story that I think the Utah was hit by, if it was the Utah, I think it is. I think it was the Utah that was refitted for this invasion. And a German battery up at Cherbourg, Fort Rule, put a shell over and right in the middle of the deck of the refitted Utah. Killed about 10 guys. So we'll tell that story later.
Should we climb up to the cemetery?
Yeah, let's go. But there's nothing in that bunker up there. You know, it's probably... Think of the guys that died up there. I'd say about 10,000 died up there, both sides, initially the first day. 10,000, both sides. But geez, I tell you, I don't think it was totally planned. I got criticism after the fact, you know. But it was a tough nut to crack. But they were going to make these landings here. If they got the first 10,000 wiped up, give me another 10,000. They were all in boats out there ready to come in. And we were some of the later ones, you know, but I wouldn't have wanted to stood in this beach on D-Day. I just wouldn't. Yeah, terrible. You know, I don't know, it doesn't look like some iron out. But this is shrapnel. These concrete bunkers were built by the Germans and the French forced labor to protect this beach. They're all up and down about this line, and they're up further. So this is the first line of defense. Up there is the second line. They got a third line, and the big guns up there on the bluff. They had it. This was by the famous General Erwin Rommel, who studied the Civil War, by the way, in 1927 to 32, somewhere in there. But I don't remember. I do not remember these dunes being here. I think they've been blown by the sand, by the winds, and built up over the years. There's a concentration plate, and all the sand piled up around them. So I think if you dug into them, you'd find a few concrete bunkers. Maybe. Okay. Second wave, that second wave was about, see, each battalion, well, they had 700-800 men. So they wiped out, effectively, the 2nd Battalion. And they couldn't do it. But the 3rd Battalion is the one that, the 3rd wave is the one that got through, you know.
There.
So when the infantry walked up this bluff and got to the top, they stayed in chalets and took the houses, and all the people up there were welcoming them, but they didn't go inland much. But they had observation posts out there. They could tell if the Germans were coming. They were making sure of that. And meantime, they were waiting orders what to do after this. They wanted to tell. But some of them were short-handed. Their company had been cut in half. You know, some of them didn't have a company. So when they got to the bluff, they consolidated their losses and formed new companies. And from there, they kept going down the road. And it didn't take them more than a few hours. I don't know how long it really did take, but then the artillery started to come in. And when the artillery started to come in, they went up to the top of the bluff, and they had a road up here, and I don't think the artillery used this one. This was for foot soldiers. And they had another road, and they'd get up there to the top of the bluff, and they'd go into some of these chalets into the yards and set up their guns. So they were shooting right out of the yards of some of these farmhouses and chalets, right within a half a mile of the top of the bluff. So they would get covered. And then everything else after we got up to the bluff was by plan. They knew where they were going to go. They planned their tactics after that. But we were supposed to go up to Cherbourg. So we climbed this bluff, went up to the road they call the Red Ball Highway, and started marching the next morning. We stayed at the top of this bluff, but the next morning we started walking down that road toward Cherbourg. And then later trucks picked us up. We must have marched, my guess is 10 miles down the road. We were carrying everything, rifles, everything. So 60 pounds on your back. And food, everything. Some of the guys had shovels. Looks silly. But that's up on that Red Ball Highway, maybe 5 miles down the road. We met Patton coming with about 10 tanks down the road. Just at the time we got into the trucks, he came and we made the trucks get off the road. That we were in the trucks by then, but we couldn't move because he wanted to get through. And he was coming towards this beach, not away from it. So I don't know what he was doing. He was probably positioning his tanks around the perimeter. that's the story. We'll pick it up over on top of the bluff when we get up there. All right, this is our campground. This, right here. I was camped right over, probably on that flat, right before that slope went up. That's where my camp was. All the rest of them were disseminated out here, various locations. We spent one night here. The P-47 was with its nose in the ground at about the whole body of the plane, the wings intact, was down in the sand about 4 feet. It was free and clear, good shape. And there was a Captain W.E. Purdy on the side of the P-47 Thunderbolt that was located there. And apparently this fella came in over the bluff, maybe he got out. He clipped one of these dunes, and he came in and boom, his airplane stuck in the ground like a steak. But it was really, I used to, while we were there that evening. Now I'll tell you another thing. That evening, it was about 10 o'clock, we heard a strange noise. And it was like thunder coming off of the distance. And we looked up and there was fog in the sky. We couldn't see anything. We saw a flare. But what happened is a buzz bomb. They were aiming buzz bombs towards this landing zone, and that's what we heard. We heard 2 of them pass over. But they had them set wrong. They landed way out there. And I don't think they hit any ship. They just landed in the wrong spot. But I remember that. But when I said that to people in my outfit, they said, "No, I never heard that." Well, you know why they never heard it? They were asleep. You know, between the first, the Rangers and I'm not sure.
Do they even have their names?
Oh. Okay, he got it 2 days after D-Day. 4 days. There was noise. There was all kinds of noise. There was shells going off, guns going off in the background. This is all too peaceful. It just doesn't have any, you know. It's different. It's just different. But that's what was going on. It was a very, even when I got here, it was pretty active, you know. All right, the landing strip for the C-47s taking wounded back to England existed right here. And we walked down the bluff and around, and over here was a farmhouse and other buildings that we walked through to get to to the Red Ball Highway. Look at all the trees. They're 50 years old at least. All the trees. That, amazing. Let's see. All right, should I go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. There's the invasion route on the map. Omaha. They turn north where the parachutes are, or where the Carnton and St. Mary's Lease. And the 4th Infantry moved to the west, the Arrow, and north, and they fought for the isolated Cherbourg. At the same time, they were holding the flanks down on the south side of the Cherbourg Peninsula. Then the English were on their beach. They pushed through Caen and came down to Mere Falaise, and we pushed down around. See that small arrow with the star? We went around, and Patton's army then started its attack around the southern Avranches. See Avranches? And he pushed from there. He pushed west or east. He went east, and the German army put on an attack and almost broke through to the coast of Coutances when here was Patton's tanks south of them, heading east. So the Americans counterattacked at Falaise and drove the Germans back, and the Germans escaped. 15th Army escaped way back to Belgium and past Paris. They pulled out of Paris. Meantime, they'd make the invasion of southern France, and the Germans were pushed out of France. That's basically what happened. Patton's army pushed all the way to Brest. The 9th Army did. And the 3rd Army is Patton's. He pushed the Lorient. And then the 9th Army was replaced by the 65th Division, and they were sent up to Belgium and for the Battle of the Bulge. Prior to the Battle of the Bulge. But the 3rd Army went down to Lorient, Saint-Nazaire, and they pulled out. Other divisions replaced it, and they isolated the German army around the perimeter of the Atlantic Ocean. And they drove all the way into Germany from there. But east to Cherbourg, the Battle of Cherbourg, down through Carnton. They were still fighting at Carnton, back down to just north of the Falaise a little bit to another airfield there. St. Lo was taken about July 20th, and the breakout occurred the 5th. And we went back to Cherbourg, and they flew us back to England in probably mid-August, just after the breakout. And we were scheduled to go to Holland.
And then where'd you go?
Well, we went back to England at north of London, up in Essex County, and I watched the invasion of Holland. All those fighters and planes went right over my head, and this was probably the first week in September 1944, and we were scheduled to go to Holland. Some of the troops went. I did not. I stayed there. The Holland became a debacle, and the troops had to pull down. We went down. The troops that we had in Holland retreated to Reims. We went to Reims. From Reims, we went to assigned to various airfields around the district of Paris, north of Paris, and Dreux, Reims, other. I think we had one at Lille. We didn't get into Belgium at all. Well, yes, we did, but not much.
And then where?
Well, then when the war, as it ended, when the bulge occurred, we were scheduled to go in as replacements for some troop, but it didn't turn out. We stayed in in northern France, up near Reims. We went, after that, we joined the troop carrier in planning several invasions across the Rhine River. And that's when I was assigned back to Chartres. And that was the headquarters of the 82nd, 101st, and 11th Division. 11th Division, the Claw Division. And after they made that division, after we made that invasion, we went into Germany. So what's that? Tax. So who's doing it? Second pushed into, I think, St. Law. I thought it was the 29th Crusade. I thought it was. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 29th Crusade. Yeah, there they are. See them? And St. Lo was the biggest battle they had. First Airborne were holding the flanks. 82nd was up above on the Douve River. They pushed down the valley of the Douve, I guess that's how you say Douve, and stayed there a while, just holding the flanks. And the forts, they sneaked up to Cherbourg. They were in the Battle of Cherbourg. We got to follow the fort. The battle was still on. It lasted a week after we were there. And they secured the peninsula after that. But meantime, the 1979 turned on their heels and went the other to the east side. And Patton, of course, the 90s, part of Patton.
The 82nd. See
where the 82nd, they pushed all the way to the coast. I know that. That wasn't very many of them. And where are they? You know, we don't show. Brittany isn't on.
No, not yet. Yeah, that's as far as Ponderson. There's Ponderson where.
Oh, there's Granville.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's no same shot right about that.
All right, I'll tell you a story about Granville. I think it was near Granville. They have the Channel Islands out here. Channel Islands were still held by the Germans. They had long-range artillery. They sent a few rounds over at Granville. We'll look on the map and see. Yeah, they went 30 miles. And we had a rest camp there. This was in the middle of July. And they said, oh, we got to get a great rest camp. Go to a rest camp, go to there and get shelled all day. I mean, it's silly. But anyway, let's see. But see how the planes followed support for them? You know, they had to have airfields there, you know, supporting this.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. Gee, that's a good show there. Right. All of the first two divisions were wiped out. There were cannons back. They were going to make the landing. They didn't care. They were gone. You know.
We only got 14 million men in the army.
That's it. But I met you guys up here at.
I think I bought you a beer.
No, I tell you, it was a funny thing. The Stars and Stripes, we got a back issue, and they said that Cherbourg was taken. We got up there and we were raging up fighting them, and the damn thing wasn't over for 10 days.
They were future reporters.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. But it's amazing.
It's amazing planning.
Yeah.
We should plan this for peace.
Right. Well, you know, they could have done a little better. I like to criticize. Don't you? We could have done save a little more.
It's all done by human beings.
Yeah, I know.
And mistakes were always made.
Yeah, it's, I was in with the 82.
The airborne?
Yeah, but what we did, we supplied their needs by giving them, getting their gliders back and giving them resupplying. So, yeah, our first, when you guys were fighting for Cherbourg, we were supposed to build an airfield right to the, let's see, the east of Cherbourg. We couldn't even get in. We went down there and there were mortar was under mortar plant. So we turned it around and we picked number 2.
I could have the 4th at St. Paul.
Oh, did you? Boy, that's a tough.
I was a replacement. See where it was going all the way up there?
Yeah. Well, now the 4th, the St. Lo, the Germans, it lasted a long time.
St. Paul was almost 3 weeks.
Yeah, almost a month. That was. They didn't.
Well, that was the main breakthrough.
Yeah. So the 4th, when you joined it, the 4th of May.
Right, that's correct.
And then old Patton, he got down here around.
Well, we can tell them what they did wrong, right?
Sure.
He's not around.
Yeah. I was over at West Point. He's got a big bronze statue out there with I met him on the road. I saw him on the road coming into see when we got out. I didn't go in with the airborne. What we had is equipment. And I was with supply. So I wasn't in a supply depot, but we came in by sea, and then we hit St.
You're
Mary's.
like the AAA, Automobile Association of America, right?
No.
You brought the spare tires.
Well, no. The first duty we had was bury 500 dead Germans in this easy Navy. They were killed by naval gunfire. And there was a captain in the 82.
Right there, seen you.
Yeah, and what happened, I think it was the evening. I know you say, well.
The names get confused.
Yeah.
Well,
It might have been St. Mary, but I don't think it was St. Mary, it was easy. And then we dug the hole for them and we dragged the bodies out.
At St. Mary, Lisa, a lot of American paratroopers were killed.
Oh, yeah, lots of.
Tremendous.
Oh, lots. They were laying all over the
That was
ground.
probably
You know.
No,
Well, nice talking to you.
Stay well.
Geez, How many times have you visited?
First,
Yeah, first time.
what's enough?
Yeah, it's about it. That's right.
Stay well, good health.
Air operations over. Oh, yeah. Let's see what they did here. The 5th engineer went up to Cherbourg and unloaded ships after that. They didn't put them in any other theater of war.
Huh.
Yeah, you know, you light it with a and it cuts steel.
Steel, yeah.
Yeah, they landed out there with those.
So,
They were cutting the steel barricades so boats could get in.
oh,
Yeah, things like that.
the boot comes so,
They were loaded with mines out there, and they had
Yeah.
they had to deactivate the mines, you know. So they took a hell of a beating the first half a day. They were really.
yes, a lot of people died.
Oh yeah, a lot of.
But all the shoot guns are fired.
That's
always.
German.
Germans, it's always here.
Yeah.
They shoot
Oh yeah.
continue.
Oh yeah. They cover the beach with
Yeah.
machine guns, big guns.
And they move 2 groups, stand on the field. 2 groups they come here so and make it.
Well, the Germans had lines.
Yeah.
They had line. See it down there in that bluff.
Alliance.
That was the first. They had machine guns down there, covering the beach. Then if that went, they had a second line.
So,
This was probably in the third line,
third line, yeah.
somewhere along there.
So,
and these were bigger guns, and they could shoot way down there. They could
Yes.
shoot way down there from here. 'Cause-
Big one.
oh yeah, great one. I don't know, 6 inches.
Yeah, die hebben we zien there. Dat is zo big ones. You can see it out, what? In?
Yeah.
There, how you see that. Big
Oh.
one guns.
Right around the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
on
you
the
wanna
wet
see
plaats.
one, go over and see it.
Yeah. On wet plaats.
Which beach?
Longest.
Longest beach.
Oh.
You can
Yeah.
see them. Very
Yeah,
big.
you see a lot of bunkers with big cannons.
Oh, is that
So,
right?
so like, so yeah.
Oh yeah. Huh.
They can shoot that thing 500 meters.
500 meters.
And they want to stand it and tell them. You look and you tell them.
Right.
They shoot. They stand.
Way back.
He gets it out of that swirl.
Are you videoing now?
Yeah.
Oh, so explain what this is. You're on video. You're on
Oh.
video.
Okay. I don't know what's. This is this part of Normandy. Point to Hawk is off in the distance. We didn't get down here, but we could see down here on occasion, and they were unloading around these parks here, some from other troops coming in. And we'll go up this hill. You can see over here on the left. Now, can you get that?
Hang on.
Say it again. Oh, yeah. You will see as you go on. You see pock marks there of shells that hit the side of the bluff up there for gun emplacement. The gun emplacement the Germans had, and they were all open. There wasn't that much vegetation here. It was open sand, and you could see where they had hit, blown the rock away. But
Here comes a bump.
okay. All right. You could see up there some of the shell holes that were made by the bombardment of the naval vessel. They were obviously looking for some gun emplacements up there. Good.
Okay.
Off in the distance is Point to Hawk Beach.
Okay, here we go. It's on.
But we've just come up from the beach onto the Red Ball Highway. And here is, we passed this chateau on our left
It's going to be terrible.
and continued along this road, which was much narrower. We're marching down this road, and through this town, a few miles away from where we are now, our company met General Patton with about 4 or 5 tanks coming down the road. He was in a Jeep. You could see his pearl-handled revolver, and he was standing up in the truck and in the Jeep, motioning for us to get the heck off the highway. So we pulled off into the ditch, and his tanks passed us, and everybody was saying "Hooray, hooray, hooray!" And I thought it was very appropriate of the moment. Go. We're standing at Fort Duhok, right at the top of the bluff, and this is the remains of the German gun emplacements. There were no guns up here when the Rangers hit it at D-Day. This is the remainder. It was under intense shell fire before the Rangers hit it. And they got up to the top of the bluff and found the guns were not there. And after that, the Rangers flanked this area and went towards Omaha Beach over the bluffs. Okay? area that the Rangers hit. And by all scenes, they launched their hooks from the boats up to this cliff, and they climbed this cliff. But they were shooting and throwing rocks down at them. They were blowing off. The Germans were blowing off part of the bluff. Small arms were taking them off. A lot of them landed down there and were wounded in this little. When the tide is in, it's up higher, much higher. And I don't know. They didn't have much beach when they landed. But this is the place that was so difficult coming up. I feel it was. That's what they found out. Now see, there's another gun emplacement that wasn't finished maybe. But they fired that gun right over that bluff and had it all figured out. That's the boat, because no gun. Another one. We're standing in front of the administration building of the French Maupertuis Airport. It's the airport to Cherbourg. This is the 9th Engineer Command. This is the one that the command we were under when we first built the field in last June 1944. The 9th Air Force, after we built this, they used it as a P-51 fighter base. And the fighters took off from here, and in 5 minutes they were back re-ammunitioning their planes. I don't recognize the exact location where we are, but it's close to Maupertuis, the town, which I believe is over there that way. I'm not sure. All right, cut. All right. We are. All of the people had headquarters in this field. Here is our outfit that had built this original field from scratch. It wasn't anything. It was an ex-French, a small airfield. And I am the one that set up the transit and set the center line of this airfield for the first time. The first airfield was then we used Pierce plank, which is steel planking for the airport. That was the first one. Lieutenant General Brereton of the 1st Allied Airborne Army came here in middle of July and told us to build a runway out that way. We did. I won't say any more. We are in here someplace, but that is our outfit there. None of these were airborne. None. We were the only one. There.
Okay, go ahead.
That's where we are. We built the field. We were the first one. This advanced landing ground for P-51 Mustangs. It was probably the first or second field built in Normandy. It was the first Mustang field built for sure. That I know, and it was A-15. Okay. Now what's this over here? This is something else. Fighters. Oh, okay. These are the fighter groups that were stationed at these various locations. And let's see, we were at A9. You know, Les Malais. We were, I believe. I can't recognize these numbers here, but my friend could. I don't remember all those names. I can't help you there. Should I tell him about the airfield when Churchill came in?
There you go.
Captain Eichen of the S3 877th Battalion stopped about right here on the last June sometime in 1944, and we were overlooking the site of our #1 priority airfield over to the west of Cherbourg. And you could obviously see smoke and cannon, and you could see through the glasses that mortars were hitting the area. There was a fight going on. There was also a fight going on down in this area of Cherbourg, and all this building was not there. You could see it just as clear as day. And there was artillery shells hitting over past the city near the wharf area, and they were still fighting for it. There were maybe 3 squadrons of P-47s diving for that lookout up there on the corner of that hillock up there. You can see it off in the distance. And you could see a black speck go down, hit the thing, and blow. And you wouldn't hear, you'd see it hit, you'd see all the dust and the smoke fly, and you'd wait, and you'd hear boom, you know. Then another thunderbolt hit it. We must have watched, personally, before it got boring, at least 12 thunderbolts hit that thing with bombs. Now, we stayed here and argued, talking with the officers what they were going to do. And at that time, they must have thrown 40 bombs into that thing. And I believe one of the officers took a look through the glasses and said, "There goes the white flag." The white flag had gone up over the fort. They had surrendered. But with 40 bombs hitting that place, I would think I'd be thinking of surrendering too. Those 47s, there were so many of them, and they were circling that area, just and they'd come back here. And we'd watch one, and it'd go in line, and then all of a sudden it'd go down like that and hit it. And it was the most spectacular thing you've ever seen. But all the dust and all the smoke from artillery was hitting that town, and I'm telling you, we figured the time was to pick our #2 spot, and that turned out to be Maupertuis. All right, this is a story as I know it. This is Maupertuis, the airport that I laid out the center line of and did other work. All right, we're standing at Maupertuis Airport in Normandy. This is a true story as what happened to me while I was here in June and July of 1944. The runway is just over the way a little bit, and I am the one that laid that runway out and started the building of this airport by the 877th Airborne Engineer Battalion. I might relate that over there is where a Focke-Wulf 190 spotted me doing some work. No one else was around, and I saw it off in the distance, and due to the fact I knew identification of aircraft, I knew it was a FW-190. I dove across the Jeep that was there with me carrying stakes, and I looked out over the seat, and I saw this pilot, that FW-190 wasn't 40 feet above me, and he turned and went out that way. He went out to sea. All the Mustangs in the field saw him too, started their engines, and chased him. They were off the tarmac before, I would say, a minute and a half chasing him. I went back to my company commander and reported it, and nothing was done. I feel I was fortunate that he didn't get me, but I don't know he was probably on a reconnoitering mission. That's about it. But this is the airport that the 877th built. Okay?
All right, you're on.
Now, we don't have to introduction or anything.
No.
Right? I can go right into it?
Yep.
During the middle of July, we we were building this airports and hard stands for aircraft and making this a first-class fighter strip. And we were visited by many people. General Eisenhower landed here with General Quesada in a two-seater Mustang. General Patton met here. General Bradley was here. And one day we were at the far end of the runway down here, and I looked up in the sky and I saw a group of Spitfires coming our way, and we didn't have any Spitfires on the field. So I watched those Spitfires, and one squadron appeared, another squadron appeared, and a third and fourth squadron appeared. And finally in the middle I saw a little silver dot, and it got larger, and it came right across this field, circled the field once, and my colonel came up to me on the Jeep, and he said to the driver, who is Red St. Clair and myself, "Clear the field. Somebody's coming in." We didn't know who. We went down with our Jeep, down the runway. All the men were working. They had trucks on the side. They got them off the runway. We sped back, and as we sped back, these fighter craft went and dove on us. One after another. At least 20 Spitfires came down, and I think they were saluting us, and turned over, and another one had come down, and I said to Red, "My God, one of those things are going to hit us." So we got down to the end of the runway, and we waited for this C-47 Silver to come in. It landed in a short distance, taxied down here, turned around, and came back to where we were. And my colonel and all the other officers were there, and we formed a circle right there. A car pulled up, which was probably a Rolls-Royce convertible, about 1938, and a general got out of the aircraft. It was a lieutenant general. Lieutenant General Lee of the U.S. Army. He was head of the supply area of this Normandy. Then behind him, several other generals of the British Army, and then a man pushed through the door. He was such a giant he couldn't get through the door. It was Winston Churchill. He stepped down from the plane. They helped him 15 steps to the car. He got in. He spoke after he was there. We were all within 15 feet of the car. That close, I think maybe at least 20 feet, I believe. And we looked over at him, and he was searching for something in his pocket. So he sent one of his aides back to the C-47. In a few minutes, he was back, and he gave him a packet. In it, he pulled out the biggest cigar you ever want to see, and he bit the end of it and put the cigar back in his pocket. And he turned to us, and he went like this. That was my greeting of Winston Churchill at this airfield.